Okay, you've signed a massive contract, a deed to a house, maybe a power of attorney, and then you hear those four little words, get this notarized. It's such a critical step, but what is actually happening? Today, we're going to break down the most common piece of that puzzle, the notary acknowledgement.
Yeah, that phrase. It often feels like the final hurdle for some of life's biggest moments. But it's so much more than just a rubber stamp. It's a specific legal act with a very clear purpose, to prevent fraud and to make sure everyone can trust the document. So let's take a look at what's really going on behind the scenes. You know, a notary can perform a few different tasks, but the one you are going to encounter way more often than any other is the acknowledgement. And honestly, if you can understand this one act, you'll pretty much demystify almost every trip you ever have to make to the notary.
So, let's get right into it. What is an acknowledgement? This isn't some obscure, dusty legal formality. It's the absolute core of what notaries do, day in and day out. It's the foundation that makes countless agreements legally sound.
Think of it like a three-part verification process. It's pretty simple. First, you have to physically be there. Second, the notary has to properly identify you. And third, you have to state or acknowledge that you signed the document willingly. That's pretty much it.
So let's just boil all that legal language down, shall we? A notary's stamp on an acknowledgement is certifying just two things, that you are who you say you are, and that nobody forced you to sign, your identity and your intent. That is the whole game, right there.
And this right here, this brings us to the single biggest misconception about notaries. They are not fact checkers. A notary does not verify that the information inside your document is true. They only care about the identity and willingness of the person who put their signature on it. And that distinction is absolutely everything. So, we've covered the what. Now, let's get to the how. What can you actually expect when you walk into the notary's office with your important document in hand?
Your role in all this is actually incredibly simple. It's a quick three-step process. First, you show up in person. And yes, that means physically present. No video calls for this. Second, you prove it's you with a valid ID. And third, you verbally acknowledge that yes, that's your signature. And that brings us to the little verbal ceremony. The notary is required by law to ask you a question that sounds very much like this. It's not just small talk. They have to get your direct, out-loud confirmation that the signature is yours and you meant to sign it. And after all that formality, your part is unbelievably simple. A truthful yes is all that's needed to complete the process on your end. It's the final little piece that creates that official, trustworthy record. Okay, so to really sharpen our understanding of what an acknowledgement is, it helps to compare it to the other common thing a notary does, the jurat. They might sound kind of similar, but their legal purpose is fundamentally different.
Here it is, the absolute core difference in a nutshell. An acknowledgement is all about the signer, their identity, and their free will. A jurat, on the other hand, is all about the document. You are swearing an oath that the contents of that document are true.
And when you look at them side by side like this, you can really see the key differences in how it's done. Now, for both, you have to show up in person. But a jurat has two really strict requirements that an acknowledgement doesn't. You must sign the paper right there in front of the notary, and you have to take a formal oath.
And this brings us to probably the most practical, useful takeaway of all. For an acknowledgement, you can sign your document days, even weeks in advance. You just need to show up in front of the notary later to formally acknowledge that the signature already on the page is yours. So why does this whole formal, step-by-step process even matter? Okay, let's connect these rules to the high-stakes, real-world documents where you'll actually find them.
You'll almost always find acknowledgments on documents that transfer power or property. Buying a house, granting someone power of attorney, setting up a trust, these are all about confirming who is making the decision and that they're doing it freely. That's why they need an acknowledgement, not an oath about facts.
If you've ever looked at the end of a legal form, you've probably seen a block of text that looks just like this. It's not just a bunch of fancy boilerplate. It's the notary's official statement. And now that you know what to look for, the legality becomes crystal clear. See those key phrases, personally appeared, and acknowledge that they executed it voluntarily? Sound familiar? So, that block of text isn't just filler. It's the notary's sworn statement, their official record that they performed their duty correctly. It's the proof that provides the integrity and the fraud prevention for the entire transaction.
So the next time you need something notarized, you'll see it in a whole new light. Not as some bureaucratic hurdle, but as a crucial layer of security. The notary is the impartial witness who anchors your signature in a moment of proven identity and free will. And in a world of digital deepfakes and identity theft, maybe that simple in-person act of acknowledgement is more important than ever.